Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Ome. Today we're going to be doing two things actually. We're going to be playing some Rakdos Arcanist in Historic, and we're also going to be talking about the banning of Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, in Historic. So first things first, it's actually pretty big news. Uro got banned in Historic. Finally! I'm so happy about this change. I've been clamoring for a ban on Uro for a really long time in Historic, and I'm really glad it's come, and I'm actually really excited to play a bunch of different decks. So first things first, I'm going to give my reaction, and then we're going to be playing some Rakdos Arcanist, which you can see on the screen in front of you, which I think is going to actually benefit a lot from Uro leaving the format, and I'll get into why that is later. So first things first, why am I so happy about the Uro ban? Well, Uro was in the most popular deck in Historic for a really long time. And this deck has been the dominant deck for something like a year. And Uro is really the glue that's holding it together. The reason why it's so much better than every other deck. So, of course, the deck I'm talking about is Sultai Ramp. This deck is basically just Simic Ramp plus black interaction. And Uro meant that it both had a grindy recursive threat against other control decks, and that it had this card drawing, life gaining, ramping threat against aggro that would also end the game quickly, so that burn decks couldn't even try to outgrind them. Like, as soon as they attacked with Uro, the game was just over. So Uro was just really insane because it was amazing against aggro and control, which is not a combo we see very often. So Uro was just amazing in Sultai. Also, it was in a bunch of other decks, right? Like Temur Paradox Engine was running it, Kethis Combo was running it. Basically every single deck that was playing green and blue was running it, and it was just so strong that it was overpowering everything else, and it meant that also like things like Temur Control wouldn't exist very, very popularly anyway. Like Temur Control did exist, but it wasn't very popular because you could just splash green and boom, there you go, you get to play Uro, which is huge. So Uro is gonna first off increase format diversity. Like it's now Sultai is gonna probably break up into a bunch of different control decks. It's gonna be Azorius Control and Temur Control and like Simic Ramp, and we're going to see them duke it out, see which one is actually the best control deck. So that's going to be pretty exciting in terms of the metagame. Also, Uro was just really dominant over one specific type of deck, which I think is really important to have in the format, and which was really suffering because of Uro, and that's aggro. Especially mono red aggro, because mono red aggro just had a really hard time. Mono red creatures was like alright, you know, because it had like Annex and Embercleave, which could go over the top of Uro. But any deck trying to play burn spells and reach, like Mono Red Burn, for example, just had a really hard time because even 3 life gain from Uro meant that they had to draw a whole nother spell, a whole nother Wizard's Lightning, attack for a whole nother turn to get the opponent dead, a turn which they probably won't have against Uro. So Uro is just really massive in ensuring that Sultai beat aggro decks, and well, Sultai did actually get punished a little bit by Gulaga when they got too greedy. Sultai was just pushing aggro out of the meta, because basically what should have happened in the Historic meta, at least in my opinion, is we'd have a rock paper scissors metagame between sack decks, aggro, and control, where aggro beats control, control beats sack, sack beats aggro. But Uro meant that control was also beating aggro, meaning that aggro had no place, and then Sultai was just like 30% of the metagame forever, basically. So with Uro gone, it's also going to leave a lot of room for decks that can actually punish control decks to actually come in now, since without Uro, that's going to be a lot more possible. That's pretty much it. I'm really happy about Uro leaving the format. It's going to change up a lot of things. Uro was a fun card to play at first, but then it just became omnipresent, and it got really boring. And I wish almost that it was less powerful, like Kroxa, for example, because Kroxa is actually fun to play. It's not broken, but it's good, and has a lot of space in different cool decks. And I'm by no means biased by the fact that I've literally got Kroxa on the screen right now in front of me in the deck I'm about to play. But yeah, like I wish it like gained 2 life, or like gained 1 life, didn't even gain life, something like that. Something that would make it like more normal. But I'm just happy it's getting banned. Right, so now that I've gotten that out of the way, I haven't really done with those like videos where I talk a bunch. So if you liked it, let me know in the comments down below, or don't. I'm not your dad. But yeah, that's me speaking for a while. So now we'll get into this deck. Actually, this deck is Rakdos Arcanist, and so actually my face is a little bit in the way. So let me move myself real quick. Right. So now I'm over here. So yeah. So primarily this deck is a tempo deck. It's weird because it's like a tempo deck, but it's also an aggressive deck, and like a self-mill deck. This deck's basically trying to do a lot of different things, but The main one is it's trying to outgrind the opponent and then kill them with cheap spells. So it starts the game off on 1, most of the time with either Thoughtseize, which is incredibly powerful. Why do my cards not have text? Why do my cards not have text? Why has the text disappeared from all my cards? Hello? Okay, that's not supposed to happen. I will be right back. So, what is Rakdos Arcanist? And now that my cards actually work and actually have text, I can even tell you about it. So basically, this deck is a deck with Lurrus, first of all, in the companion slot. So it's playing all cheap creatures and really all cheap spells. The only actual card above 3 CMC in this deck is Bedevil and technically Claim to Fame. So this deck is primarily a tempo deck. It is trying to beat the opponent by starting out early and just doing things more cheaply, more aggressively than the opponent and get an early advantage, which it can then carry into the mid game and potentially late game. But the deck can kill pretty quickly by turn 5 or 6 with some of its better draws. So how does this deck start off the game? Well, usually with either Thoughtseize to disrupt the opponent or Stygian Supplier to get the mill going. Then it follows that up on turn 2 with a proactive 2-drop with Valky, Rakdos Arcanist, or Young Pyromancer, and then later in the game uses cheap spells, Claim the Firstborn, Village Ride, Spark Harvest, Bloodchief's Thirst, removal spells, card draw, Claim the Firstborn, even more removal spell, really great with Village Rides, and then also Claim to Fame, which is one of the reasons why this deck is milling itself to get one of these 2-drops back in play. And honestly, Claim to Fame was one of the big reasons why this deck has so many powerful 2-drops. It's because with Claim to Fame, you can get them back for 1 mana, which is really strong. Like a 1 mana Rakdos Arcanist, 1 mana Young Pyromancer, that's pretty insane. And then also, this deck has some backup themes, basically. So it's primarily a tempo deck, but how it actually enacts its game plan is very often through the graveyard. So the primary enablers for getting things going through the graveyard is Stygian Supplier. Mills through when it enters, mills through when it dies, and it's also importantly a cheap body to sack, block, attack, do that kind of fun stuff with. And then past that, this deck doesn't have any more actual self-mill, but rather a bunch of cheap spells that get into the graveyard pretty quickly, like Thoughtseize, for example, cheap removal spells, stuff like that. So this deck fills up its graveyard pretty quickly, and what does it do after that? Well, it's got 3 main cards that use the graveyard: Rakdos Arcanist, Kroxa, and Claim to Fame. Rakdos Arcanist is the reason why this deck has so many 1-drop spells. You can see Thoughtseize plus all of these. And Rakdos Arcanist is really, really powerful, especially when you curve Thoughtseize into Rakdos Arcanist, because then you can start Thoughtseizing with Rakdos Arcanist, and especially since with Thoughtseize you can take something like a removal spell that would remove the Rakdos Arcanist, so now you just ensure that it keeps going, and then you can snowball really well from there. So Thoughtseize into Rakdos Arcanist is probably the best start in this deck, and Rakdos Arcanist overall is incredibly powerful in this deck, kind of why the deck is called Rakdos Arcanist, and yeah, this deck is built around it a lot. It's also got 4 Kroxas, which is not that good of a 2-drop, because just casting this card into a little bit underpowered, you just get a card, potentially some life, but it's really good to mill over, especially with Stygian Supplier. If you can get Kroxa in your graveyard for free, that's a lot of value, and Kroxa is really, really strong if you can escape it, if you can get those 5 cards in the graveyard and the 4 mana. And well, this deck is Rakdos, so the 4 mana, you're going to have it usually, especially since this deck does have a decent amount of lands and card draw. And well, this deck does fill its graveyard pretty quickly, so Kroxa is really strong. It's also pretty strong to get back with Claim for 1 mana, and that's actually a play you do make often. And also Kroxa is especially good with Fame. If you have 6 mana, being able to escape Kroxa from the graveyard and then cast Fame on it, that means you're discarding 2 cards, potentially hitting for at least 6, and then 6 more on the ground with a hasty Kroxa. Actually make that 8, because Fame gives +2/+0. So that's really, really strong. And then the third part of the graveyard deck, Claim to Fame, which not only reanimates a 2-drop, but Fame also actually has some pretty interesting aspects. You can gain lifelink with Lurrus, you can haste a Kroxa, a Rakdos Arcanist. You can also pump Rakdos Arcanist's power, so you can cast them like a Bedevil or another Claim to Fame from the graveyard, which is pretty strong, or one of the sideboard cards for this deck. So that's also a often overlooked aspect, but Claim to Fame actually is more than just a claim. It's also a fame. So yeah, that's pretty much the deck. And then, yeah, basically the main game plan is you play cheap proactive for that, and then basically just ride it through the late game. Now onto the sideboard, we've got basically just some varied interactions. So we've got Witch's Vengeance against Goblins, a Braid against Artifacts, especially Grafdigger's Cage, and also creatures, and Graf's Rampage for Planeswalkers, creatures, artifacts, basically a catch-all answer if you need it. Noxious Grasps against green and white stuff like Teferi, Yasharn, Nisa, Crosses. Not Uro anymore, luckily. But yeah, it still deserves a spot. One of Feed the Swarm for enchantment, stuff like Rest in Peace and whatever else. One Soul Guide Lantern for graveyards. One more Fatal Push for some cheap removal. This deck isn't the best Fatal Push deck, and in Historic, there are less creatures overall. So Fatal Push isn't the really insane card that it is in Modern, but it's still quite good. And then 2 Duress for decks with a lot of non-creature spells. So there's also one other thing I need to cover, which is why is this deck so much better now that Uro is gone? And the first answer is that Uro was actually turned on by this deck really easily. This deck does a lot of discarding for the opponent. Thought Seizes and removal spells and Croak Says meant that the opponent's graveyard actually filled up really quickly. So when you're playing against Sultai, they're very likely to end up casting Uro like a turn or two earlier because of your cards. And while Clan the Firstborn was a good answer game 1, you get to Clan the Firstborn Uro, and then you get to attack with Uro, then you sacrifice it, and you're all good. But the problem is, post-board, you don't really want to keep your Clan the Firstborns, because Sultai doesn't have that many creatures, and Uro just created this weird problem where you have to bring in removal, but then if they don't draw Uro, it's dead, and if they do draw Uro, it's good, but they also have to cast Uro, and it's pretty easy to play around. So Uro just created massive headaches for this deck, because this is just massive threat that kept coming back, and when this deck is trying to grind out the opponent and win with damage, well, Uro grinds really well and gains life. So those are both big problems for this deck. So Uro is just pretty insane against this deck. Also, Sultai was just a bad matchup for this deck overall, since they had access to stuff like Grafdigger's Cage, plus they went just a little bit over the top of this deck. So now with Sultai gone, potentially like slower decks will have a hard time against this deck because things like Thoughtseize keep them out of the early game, and then potentially Croaksa can finish out the game before they can actually get on their feet. And this deck should have a pretty good matchup against faster decks because it has a lot of removal spells and cheap proactive threats. The real problem for this deck was the sort of mid-rangey aspect of Sultai, as well as just Uro just being incredibly broken. So now with Uro and Sultai gone, or at least Sultai greatly weakened, this deck should be in a much better spot in the metagame. So yeah, that's the deck. Now let's get into some games. Alright, welcome to match number 1 against Time Eater. And, wow, this is not a hand I want to be keeping. 5 lands is way too many. Yeah, I guess I'll keep this. I mean, I don't have much of a choice that matters. I'm not going to 5 cards. I think I can bottom the Spark Harvest because I don't have anything good to sacrifice to it. This hand is missing a spell to use with Rakdos Arcanist. So hopefully we can find one of those. If we don't, I guess Rakdos Arcanist is a pretty good blocker against Gutterbones at the very least. And I guess Claim can get around removal pretty well. So it's not all bad. It's Thoughtseize though. It's not great, but at least my opponent can't really take one of my creatures because of Claim. So they're going to have to take Claim, I guess. That's what I would take anyway. I mean, my opponent may spend a long time deliberating because their name is, after all, Time Eater. So if they're going to eat up all their time deciding what they want to discard from this hand, then, I mean, so be it, right? At least they've given me a warning ahead of time. Yeah, so I took the Fame, which claimed the Fame, which I think is correct. So I'll just go ahead and just cast this Rakdos Arcanist. I want to reduce the amount of damage I'm taking. This would be pretty bad if they had a Spawn of Mayhem, but honestly, I think I'm still in trouble. Even if I just like play Valky and then they do something else that's not Spawn of Mayhem. Yeah, now they get in. Now if they play Spawn of Mayhem, I mean, that would be not great. I really hope they don't have it. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, that's not good. And unfortunately for me, Spawn of Mayhem even gets around Claim the Firstborn pretty well, because it's 4 CMC, so yeah, this is not great. Maybe they have a second one and I can turn a Valky into one. Oh boy. Oh no. Right, so that's a That's a Demonic Embrace. So basically, had I Valkyried the Spawn of Mayhem, they'd still have a massive flyer that I can't really deal with because I don't have a sack outlet to go with this Clan of Firstborn, so I think either way I'd be in a pretty rough spot, but yeah. Really do want to find something though. Preferably, of course. I don't have very long to do it. If I find something like a Village Rites, that'll be pretty good. But I'm gonna take 9 damage here, which is a lot of damage. And so far I don't really have a great way out of it. I'm gonna be dead next turn too, so gotta get a really good draw here. Come on. Something good? No. Okay, then I'm just straight up dead, I think. There's nothing I can do, right? And then the other card in graveyard is Fame, so yeah, just scoop it up here. Well, it's unfortunate. Just kind of got run over by Mono Black because we didn't have any removal, but at least we get some good removal post board. We can take out the Thoughtseize since those cost life and aren't great against aggro, and we can bring in well, a bunch of removal, I guess. Do I want Soul Guide Lantern against my opponent? I think I do, and then I'll have to board out one more card, see if I can. Yeah, and then I can take out like one Kroxa, because basically Soul Guide Lantern, it's good against Demonic Embrace and Gutter Bones and probably their Dread Wanderers as well. I assume they have those. So, yeah. There's a consideration for bringing in, no, I guess there's not, for bringing in Witch's Vengeance, but I honestly think that creature types are varied enough that I don't want a 3-mana removal spell that doesn't even hit Spawn of Mayhem, and I guess it does hit Rankle, but they probably have the 4-mana 5/5 Trampler as well, or might have. They might have Rankle as well, but basically there's some different stuff that they could have, and Witch's Vengeance doesn't do a great job covering all of it. Alright, game number 2. Hopefully we get a better hand this time. That would be nice. And oh yeah, okay, we keep this. No creatures, but Claim plus Village Rites is ridiculously busted, especially against a deck that's probably just about to play a 1-drop right now. Yep, so we're just gonna head and do that now, since hopefully it'll find us some more action. And I don't think I just want to be doing absolutely nothing instead. Okay, and now we can Kroxa plus Village Rites. And then we can start, hopefully, like, removing stuff the turn after that. Ooh, Faceless Haven. So that's why they're playing all the snow-covered swamps. Makes sense, I guess. Okay, yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and cast Kroxa, hold full control so I can Village Rites it, but first I'm gonna let them discard, since I want to give them the least amount of information possible when they make this choice. And this isn't like a cantrip. Like, I'm not deciding which cards to take, so there's no downside in it for me. Only upside. Right, 4 cards in graveyard, so I'm just 2 off from Kroxa. And I've got the mana, so I mean, oh boy, but there's a Spawn of Mayhem. But there is a Bloodchief's Thirst. And that's a Fable Passage, so next turn we can cast Kroxa with no other help, though I think I am going to like play something else with my 1 mana. It might just be a claim to make my opponent discard another card, and then it should leave them empty-handed if they just like play a land in another thing this turn, so I feel like pretty good. Yeah, just depends on what they do here, really. Vicious Conquistador, okay. Well, if they play another, that's another thing. Well, if they play another thing, I was going to say there's no point in claim, because I'm going to discard their last card anyway, so I'll just go ahead and cast the Soul Guide Lantern then. And then, well, I have a blocker on the ground, and then I guess I can just pay full retail for the Spark Harvest next turn. So I think I'm in a pretty good spot. I should be anyway. Let's get the Spawn of Mayhem. Don't think they really have anything, but in case they have, actually, I think they might have the black land, Agadim, something of Agadim. Crypt of Agadim is a land. Yeah, Agadim's Awakening. And if it gets really into late game where that's actually good, then I probably want to take the Spawn of Mayhem, and they'll almost assuredly have a bunch of 1-drops in the yard anyway. Though I'm going to have the Soul God Lantern around for a while, I think, since I already have play night cards. Then maybe not. Maybe I'll just end up sacrificing it. It depends on what I actually end up doing in the next couple turns. I am going down to 9 here, so there's no way Crix is attacking, just going to be blocking for now. Another Bishop Conquistador, yeah, so I need to be a little bit worried about them going wide around me. Okay, never mind. We're actually just going to play Stitcher Supplier. Ooh, yes. Oh, yeah, and then we're going to Young Pyromancer, and then use Spark Harvest to kill Spawn of Mayhem. Oh boy. This is a very good play. And then Spark Harvest, and then you know what? We're just gonna crack this for a card. See if we can hit a black source. No black source. That's fine though. And we're gonna get an attack. Now, my opponent is under a lot of pressures. They're not going to be able to really attack safely. They're gonna have to keep up blockers now. I also have removal, these fames. So they're in a lot of trouble. They need to somehow kill me. And that's going to be pretty hard for them to do. Actually, impossible for them to do, pretty much. I'm going to go down to 7 here, but honestly, I'm just going to trade like... no, I'm not. Yes, I am. I guess I am. Yeah, I don't want to go too low here. But basically my plan is just to have lethal, and I can always claim back the Young Pyromancer anyway. Rotting Regisaur, that is fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why they're keeping in Rotting Regisaur against a deck with Claim the Firstborn, but yeah, I mean, they were dead even before it. They are super dead after that Claim the Firstborn draw. Okay, so game number 3. Now that I know that they have a bunch of expensive stuff, do I want to change anything? Don't think so, because Iron Glass Rampage is going to be pretty medium, so we're just going to run it back. And so I guess the plan for my opponent is to slap a, they're just standard mono black aggro. They're trying to play Spawn of Mayhems, slap the Flying Enchantment on a Rotting Regisaur and get it for 10, that kind of fun stuff, you know, Thought Seizes, Knight of the Ebon Legions, all these good black cards, but I just have a ton of removal, which is, going to be really good against my opponent. Alrighty, game number 3. Each time my opponent takes a while to sideboard, so some of that has been cut out, but we're coming back right here for potentially a good hand, and very likely a medium one, since that's basically what medium is defined as. And yep, this is actually a good hand. This is actually a very good hand, actually. Well, actually... yeah, because we get to start on turn 1 with a blocker. That's very good against the 2-1 that they just played. We're going to get to follow that up with potentially a Young Pyromancer, and then removal, claim, which can already get back a Valky, so we can actually stop a Mayhem Devil in multiple ways. They're even taking the attack. Okay, so I really want to draw 1-drop this turn so I can use claim, but if I don't draw 1-drop, I'm probably going to just try to use my mana as efficiently as possible and just play Young Pyromancer, though. It's pretty likely that it ends up dying, but that's fine. Yep, Scrappy Scrounger. Nope, still gotta go for the Young Pyromancer. I think it's gonna be a lot of upside if we get to untap with Young Pyromancer. I already have an answer to Mayhem Devil with just a single land, or Spawn of Mayhem. And if they let me untap with Young Pyromancer, then I'm gonna be in a pretty good spot anyway. And there's an argument to blocking, because I get to stop Spawn of Mayhem, get to claim back Young Pyromancer, but meh. Ooh, especially since I drew this Village Rites. I will take it. Okay, so we're gonna get Valky, take a peek at my opponent's hand, and then use the token. Oh, definitely taking Timuret. That's a really good card against me, because that hits my graveyard. To get us our land drop, hopefully. And that's gonna be pretty strong, I'd wager. Okay, yep, good. And now we've got one more mana left. Could claim back Stitcher Supplier. Yeah, I don't hate it. That way we have some blockers for the Scrappy Scoundrel. Get to mill ourselves a little bit more as well. Okay, yeah, this is just a really good turn overall. Now my opponent's gonna get to hit me with the Spawn of Mayhem for just a bit of damage, but I'm gonna be able to bedevil it, and then turn after that I can start playing like Rakdos Arcanist, and yikes. Well, I mean, at least I have a massive stocked graveyard. They're probably going to end up playing Timuret, but I am 100% going to just bedevil the Spawn of Mayhem, because it's just a stupid amount of damage every turn, and I would rather not die, just as a general rule. Alright, gonna mill myself 3 more. There's a Kroxa, so that's something they need to answer very quickly, as soon as I hit my land drop, in fact. And, I mean, they do have the Timuret to do that, but if they spend their whole turn Timuretting and I can just remove it, they're not gonna be in a great spot. I will tell you that, free of charge. Alright, yeah, I'm just gonna bedevil now. They could have some sort of interaction, so might as well just not risk it or anything. I do really need to kill it. And then next turn we could do some shenanigans. I would really like to hit a land here, by the way, because that'll let me cast more spells. I have plenty of gas now, so I'm mostly worried about just getting all the cards in my hand cast in time before I die. So basically every single land drop that I get is just going to help me a lot, because it lets me, like, for example, abrade plus do something else at 2 mana. Though, I guess, to be fair, claiming back this Rakdos Arcanist is not the worst play I've ever made, so. Yeah, no. Not blocking. No way I'm blocking. Not for 2 damage. His tokens could actually very well come in useful for both pressuring my opponent, and 2 life doesn't seem too much. If they had mana to pump Knight of the Ebon Legion, I would block, I think. Or maybe not, but I think I would, because then if they do have like another Mayhem Devil, or Spawn of Mayhem rather, I keep messing it up with Mayhem Devil, because Mayhem Devil is the only usual kind of Mayhem, but Spawn of Mayhem is actually the important one in this game. Spawn of Mayhem would give me an extra turn against that to find an answer, which I don't have currently, but Rakdos Arcanist plus Fame would actually get me there. So, do I actually have any creatures in the yard that I would like to get back? No, that's awkward. So I guess what I'm doing is just abrading Timuret and passing? Am I just passing? Yeah, I guess I can get in. Do I get in with all of these, or do I just, yeah, you know what, if they want to spend their turn pumping a Knight of the Ebon Legion, yeah, like, I'll chump block, but I don't think I want to try it out. You know what, I am going to claim back. This Citrus Splatter gives me another blocker, mills me more towards my next Kroxa, and I think I already have plenty of gas, so I'm just going to leave the option to make my opponent spend their whole turn like activating Knight of the Ebon Legion or losing it to a triple block, which might actually put them off attacking in general, because if they have something they really need to play this turn, like another Spawn of Mayhem that they drew, they might not want to risk me triple blocking and actually them ending up in a worse position because of that. Also, by the way, this land drop is going to be pretty important if my opponent has something good here. Yeah, I'm going to triple block. If they spend their whole turn just killing some of my 1/1s and milling me, that's going to be A-okay with me. Just 100% totally fine. And Knight of the Ebon Legion doesn't grow. I'm still on 8, which is pretty healthy life total. And I have just a million more 1/1s where that came from. Also, like, every turn they don't remove my Young Pyromancer, I'm making about as many tokens as they're forcing me to block with. Right, and just a land, that's good. And there's the Rakdos Arcanist. There's the Rakdos Arcanist attack. There we go. Okay, so now the game should just be 100% over. Pretty much. I just get to attack here, and how am I going to remove it? I'm just going to abrade it. Okay. Just going to cast an abrade, 3 damage, 3 damage, target creature, kill this Knight of the Ebon Legion. I have chump block us for the other one, and now my goal is just to kill my opponent before they can come back from this, because potentially, if they have like a Spawn of Mayhem, if they have like a removal spell and then a Spawn of Mayhem, like, if I don't kill them in time, this could lead to a road where they just somehow randomly play a Spawn of Mayhem, next turn draw the wings and kill me that way. But if I just threaten lethal in like 1 or 2 turns, like, I'm actually threatening lethal this turn. Actually, they are straight up dead this turn. But if I wasn't doing that, then they could potentially like find a way out of it, which I would not like. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they're dead here, right? They should be. 6, 7. Oh, they're on. Okay, they're on 1. That's fine. 1 with 1 creature in play. Yeah. 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 Okay, well, that was pretty brutal. We just demolished them there. It's a good matchup overall, though. They're playing creatures, a bunch of cheap creatures. We're playing a bunch of cheap removal and early threats. Like, this deck is good against aggro, and that's really how those matches usually go. So, if you've been running into a little, like, mono red, mono black, stuff like that on the ladder, definitely recommend checking out this deck. Or actually, I definitely recommend you check out this deck. Not you should definitely recommend. Well, I shortened that sentence too much, basically, but you get what I mean. Alrighty, welcome to match 2, and I guess we're going to mulligan this hand. It doesn't have any red mana, so don't think we can actually keep it, since red mana is pretty important. All we've got going on so far is a Stitcher Supplier, so yeah, we're going to take them all. This hand's a bit better. Ooh, definitely better. For sure. We're going to bottom the Croxa here, since it's pretty likely that we mill another one with a Stitcher Supplier or draw one, and it's not good from hand anyway, so we're going to go ahead and bottom that, I think. And then we've got all the good cards with Young Pyromancer here, Spike Harvest and Village Rites, and we've also got a cheap thing to sack early and Stitcher Supplier, as well as a way to start off the milling, so I actually really like this hand. The only awkwardness is that this Fabled Passage is not great, because it's not going to be untapped, so having a tapped land early is going to be a little bit awkward. What? Oh no, opponent. You're not supposed to mull to 5. I thought you were trying to win the game. Yeah, well, this might end up being a little bit easier this game 1 than originally expected, but my opponent is on 5 cards, which is not a good sign. I think there was like a they looked at data or something someone did a while back, and it was like you're 20% to win on a mull to 5. So yeah, I mean, I'll take it, I guess. You know, I'm not going to complain. Looks like another mono black player, but this time they're playing life gain things. Oh, I know exactly what my opponent's on. They're on mono black vampires. I'm calling it right now. Mono black vampires. They've got the veto. They've got the Sorin. They've got the stupid 3/1 that like you can stack it to draw a card, and then if you like gain 3 or more life this turn, or return to the battlefield tapped. They've got all that stuff going on. I bet it right now. Either that, or they're like mono black combo with veto plus 5-mana enchantment, but somehow I doubt that. Yep, there's a Heartless Act. That is fine though, since we've got Young Pyromancer and this Agadeem's Awakening. Soon enough, could have cast a Croxa there, but if they have a removal spell, then it's not super great. So I'm just going to basically thread lethal. They're not going to be quite dead this turn if they don't do anything, but they're going to be close enough to it. And yeah, so my opponent didn't put up much of a fight here. I sincerely doubt they're going to find a way to come back from their Phyrexian Obliterator dying here, but they just started off the game slow. And actually, I can just pay 1 mana here and also cast my Croxa. And just weren't able to start off the game early enough and have a strong finish, and well, we certainly had both. So yeah, bit rough there from my opponent, but we'll pick up the win there. And what are we doing in terms of sideboarding? Well, we're bringing in all our removal, or at least all of our relevant removal. We're also going to bring in the Anglass Rampages, since I'm pretty sure my opponent has Sorins. I'm going to take out Thought Seizes, 1 Croxus, since it's not super good when we're getting beaten down. And I'm going to take out one Valky, since it's not great against their removal. Yeah, let's go like that. Alright, and I do expect them to have a lot of removal since they're in black, and they have access to like Fatal Push, and Bloodchief's Thirst, and Heartless Act, which we even saw in that game, so yeah, but pretty much, I'm just bringing in removal. I want to minimize Sorin, since that's the best card in their deck, which I'm pretty sure they're playing, since generally veto is only played in a Sorin deck, and we didn't really see even any other life gain synergies, so they probably just have the whole package of like the Eitherborn 2/3 lifelinker and veto and like some random other stuff. But yeah, pretty much. Alright, this hand's a good one. Or at least it's solid, because it's got removal, and it's got Rakdos Arcanist. So, could be worse, could be better. Alright, and my opponent's doing, yikes, even more mulliganing. It's actually kind of feels bad. One game unlucky, it's like, oh well, but 2 games unlucky? I no longer feel bad for my opponent. What is that? Oh boy, this is going to be a hard game. This is going to be a hard game. Oh, that's Leyland of the Void is really, 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 really good against me. Especially on turn 0. Are you kidding me? You know what? If they're really going to mulligan to a Leyline, then I don't feel bad about that. I'm starting on 6 cards. I don't feel bad at all. Really? Leyline? Are you serial? Okay, well, now I'm just stuck with a bunch of, like, 2-mana 1/3s. So here we go. This is going to be a long game. Don't even have a Castle Lochthwain, unfortunately. So here we go. I'm probably going to get outground by my opponent pretty easily, I suspect. Especially if I don't stop drawing lands. Oh, and they even have something? Okay. Okay, buddy. Okay. Okay. I see. I see. Well, this game looks pretty over. Not sure exactly what I can draw. I guess it starts with chaining Village Rites, and then playing Akichak and Village Rites, and drawing a removal spell for Champion of Dusk, and then attacking down Sorin, and I guess, you know, with enough Village Rites, then we could get there. Yep, the attack, no blocks. They're going to gain 5 lifelink here, but I'm not going to aggro them out, so I have to outgrind them with, like, half my deck being just pretty much a do-nothing. Right, and that's a Nightly Legion that's just grown. So I guess I have to claim it just to kill the Sorin. Which is not a good play, because they just get it back. And then, yeah, I mean, like, how do I even get back into this game, ever? Like, what am I supposed to do? I didn't even bring in any of my enchant removal, which I guess I'll have to bring in the 2, whatchamacallem, the 2 mana, you destroy a creature enchantment, lose life equal to its CMC. Another one, of course. But yeah. Really. So they're going to Champion of Dusk pre-combat and then attack their Nightly Legion. Okay. Okay, buddy. Yeah, basically I just need, like, Village Rites here desperately. Okay, hold on. That's, like, the best draw in my deck, probably. Oh. Because I was going to say, like, Castle Lochthwain gives us the chance to outgrind them, but looks like that's not going to happen. Like, what can I even draw here? Actually, what can I? Okay, well, like, what's the point? Yeah, I mean, that would have been good if we drew it that turn. Like, if you drew it on the turn we had 2 mana, then we could have actually had a chance to get back in the game. Then we would have Village Rites our second creature and gone from there, but yeah, okay, so let's bring in our, actually, we only have 1 Feed the Swarm. Okay, it's a little bit awkward. Let's take out, like, a young peas. No. What do I take out? Let me take out 1 Clam since it's pretty bad against. Hold on, let me take out 2 Clams actually, since it's pretty bad against Leyline. But on the other hand, Valky is actually a good secondary plan against Leyline, especially since games where they land Leyline, often they'll have less cards in hand, so they'll be doing less, and I'll be doing less. Gets to a grindy game. It's not impossible that we get to hard casting Valky. Ooh, yes. Come on, no Leyline, no Leyline. No Leyline. Oh, they're really mulliganing for it again? Come on. They deserve to multiply, but they're going to multiple Leyline. Please. Also, please don't have a Leyline. Someone came prepared to this matchup, I guess. Oh boy. Wow. I would like to express my displeasure at the current proceedings. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's not great. Wow, Leyline, two both games. And mulled to it and got rewarded. Now everything just gets a lot harder. I don't want to spend a claim the firstborn that are Dusk Legion Zelds though. That just seems like incredibly meh. You know? I really want to play something more high value. Good news is all these cards are legit cards. Like the only card that just basically doesn't exist is Claim because it literally cannot target anything, therefore it is 100% useless and just a straight up waste of space. But apart from that, you know. Also, I really want them to play this Murderous Rider because I do want to actually gain life from claiming it. And also, it's Dusk Legion Zealot. It's just doing a massive amount of work. Okay. So I guess we're kicking a Bloodchief's Thirst. I guess we are kicking a Bloodchief's Thirst. Let's kill you. Really could use something I can claim and Village Rites right about now, and then maybe like a Young Pyromancer to play after that. Or before that. I could take a Pyro before that. You're kidding me. Why? Why must you hurt me in this way, opponent? Why must you do this to me? I do not understand. Ooh, okay, finally something that we can... Oh, wait. It's a bit of a tilter, not gonna lie. I guess we, just gonna, like, Fatal Push it or something. Fatal Push the Gifted Aetherborn and braid the Murderous Rider. You really need something to... Okay, well, look. Okay, we can basically remove everything, make them sack it with Angoth's Rampage. So it's not all bad. Okay, this is not all bad. Think to target creature, and we still have this Spark Harvest left over. Come on, claim the firstborn off the top. Show me the claim the firstborn off the top. Come on. You know you want to, deck. Come on. That is a claim, but not the firstborn. God damn it. Okay. Sacrifice a Planeswalker. I really desperately need something here. Please. Please, deck. Please. Please. I actually want something so badly. It's not even funny. Like a Croaksa would be nice, because that's good with Village Rites. Or something. Something would be good. Come on. Come on. Claim the firstborn off the top. Come on. Come on. Come on. I guess we're doing this now. Fortunately, they've got this Castle Lockthwain, and I do not. Wow, that's really brutal. I just spent like a million years not casting Claim, waiting for something better, and then they just, I assume, top deck the Agonizing Remorse, because I would think they'd have cast it earlier if they had it earlier, but aye. Hold on. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait just 1 second. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna wait one more turn, okay? The most damage I take this turn is 4 damage. Because if they use Veto to give lifelink. And then if I draw a land, I can play Valky. If I don't draw a land, then I can just play whatever I drew. And, and they're even going to just activate Castle Lockline. Oh, this is going to be so good if we actually get to cast Tybalt. Okay, come on, please. Okay. Wait, no. That's actually not that good, is it? Okay, hold on. 1, 2. So, I mean, I'm 100% playing Tibalt here. And now, oh boy, now I have to decide what I'm gonna do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So they attack for 4, gain 4. Oh, okay, so I guess I have to exile Veto. And then they just get to kill my Tibalt, but I do get to cast Veto, to be fair, so that's not bad. I'm definitely exiling Veto, by the way, because the activated ability is actually going to cause me some pretty big problems. But even after Tibalt goes away, I'm still going to get to cast Veto, which is really good. And then I have something to use Village Rites with, I guess. Shoot, more creatures, though. That's not good. Now I'm going to have to chump and sack. It's not good. I was really hoping that they wouldn't play more creatures, but oh well, what can you do, you know? Now, unfortunately, they're going to be able to keep using the Castle Lockland because of the life gain from Gifted Etherborn. Come on, I actually need a claim and a Village Rites off the top now. Easy. I mean, and as always, Young Pirate would be absolutely insane. God for this Village Rites that they don't have another Murder Shatter in hand. I don't know what I'd do if they did. But, okay. Come on, Village Rites. Come on, off the top. Village Rites. Let's go. Easy. Easy Village Rites off the top. That's not a Village Rites. So now we have to claim the Firstborn just to stay alive. Alright. Okay, buddy. Yeah. So that's the game. I guess I keep, like, maybe if I just used that Claim the Firstborn earlier in the Village Rites, I would have been in a better spot. It just feels like I did not expect them to have the hand disruption there. So we're going to wrap it up at 2 matches today instead of 3, since I also did the ban discussion. And I don't want to get this video to get too long, since, I mean, being like 45 minutes or whatever it's going to be is plenty enough already. So yeah, basically, what do I feel about this deck? So after playing it, feels pretty good. We went 1-1 overall, which is, you know, fine. And I mean, those were some pretty brutal losses to the ley line. So yeah, that's like one of the problems with this deck is that it loses to Graveyard Hit. And I'm almost glad that you got to see that, because that's really one of the weaknesses with the deck. When people are playing Grafdigger's Cages and Leyline of the Voids and stuff like that, especially Leyline of the Void, because we have more answers to Grafdigger's Cage, but like almost no one plays Leyline of the Void nowadays. If people start playing it, this deck gets a lot worse, because it just folds to Graveyard Hate. The whole deck just revolves around the graveyards. And you saw there, Valky almost got us out of it, but didn't quite. So yeah, pretty much. And so yeah, overall, like the deck's good. Might not be necessarily like the best deck in Historic, but it's always been a strong contender, and it's had its good moments, to be sure. It's been up to like 10% of the meta at some point. So yeah, this deck's definitely very strong. And I actually really enjoy playing it. It plays similar to like Delver in older formats, and like Mono Blue Tempo. It's very much a tempo deck, but also has some graveyard elements. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, so that's going to do it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, I would appreciate if you liked the video, because it helps the algorithm and all that. And if you haven't already and you like the content on this channel, and do consider hitting the subscribe button, as you'll get notified of my new videos, and you'll raise my serotonin levels also. So I guess that's an upside, potentially. And yeah, I will see you next video. Goodbye.